The sun was high in the Egyptian desert, and the extreme heat seemed to scorch even the surrounding stones. My name is Samuel Santos, and I'm here for a reason that goes beyond any conventional archaeological mission. It happened just a few hours ago, but the scene is still vivid in my mind. A pulsating red portal of light, echoing a dense vibration, emerged at the heart of the Pyramid of Khufu. The sound was like a distorted scream, piercing through my ears and causing sharp pain. But the worst wasn't the sound, it was what followed. Creatures with scaly, reddish skin and eyes glowing like flames appeared from the portal, armed with weapons that emitted a cracking sound, releasing bluish beams of light. They moved with the agility of predators, their bodies emanating a metallic, acidic scent that cut through the air. And that's when I understood. The aliens weren't just among us. They had been controlling us all along. I remember the first sign that something was terribly wrong. I was exploring a newly discovered chamber at the base of the pyramid when an ancient inscription caught my attention. It wasn't Egyptian hieroglyphics, it was something different, something alien. It looked like a combination of geometric symbols and a language I had never seen before. I was alone in that suffocating chamber, without ventilation, when I felt a vibration in the stone wall beside me, as if the structure were alive. A low hum, almost like electromagnetic buzzing, filled the air. Suddenly, I felt pressure in my chest, a suffocating sensation, as if being watched by a hidden presence in the shadows. It was at that moment I realized I was no longer just searching for ancient treasures, but for the truth buried there. As night fell, the desert seemed to come alive. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, a metallic clanking followed by a deep, continuous sound like an engine that never turned off. My military instinct told me to retreat, but my curiosity as an archaeologist drove me forward. It was a mix of fear and fascination. And then, between the dunes, I spotted something that looked like a floating disc, with red lights flickering around its edge. The lights didn't blink like those of an airplane. They were more intense, more menacing. The craft seemed to glide through the air, emitting a vibrating sound, as if made of some alien metal I couldn't identify. I stood frozen for a few seconds, just watching, until it disappeared in a flash of white light, as if it had never been there. It wasn't the first time I had seen something unexplainable in Egypt, but this was the first time I felt so exposed and vulnerable. My mind was flooded with questions and memories. I thought back to the previous night when a mysterious US government contact approached me at a hotel in Luxor. The man, dressed in a dark suit with a calculating gaze, didn't give me his name, but his words were direct. "We know what you found, and we know what's coming next." He didn't need to explain further. I already knew. It was the revelation I always feared. The aliens were among us, controlling our decisions since the dawn of human civilization. The government agent spoke of a larger plan. According to him, the US had been aware of alien presence in the pyramids for decades, but couldn't act due to the aliens' advanced technology. Then, they showed me a secret, low quality, but clearly real recording. Humans being abducted inside the pyramids and taken to a room full of alien equipment where they were subjected to experiments. It was a horrifying scene, but what scared me the most was that these abductions had been happening for over 5,000 years. The aliens were among us, literally shaping humanity's destiny over the centuries. Then, everything became clear. I was in a race against time. I had to expose the truth to the world before it was too late. It was almost impossible to sleep that night, even with the overwhelming exhaustion. The sense of urgency was in every fiber of my body. The mission was clear: re-enter the pyramid, find the secret entrance to the underground alien base, and destroy their source of control over humanity. But how could I do it? I was just beginning to understand what I was facing, and desperation mixed with adrenaline. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but what was at stake was greater than myself. It was humanity's fate. The sharp roar of an engine pierced the silence of dawn. I looked out the hotel window, and a fleet of alien ships hovered over Cairo. Their metallic outlines reflected the city lights, while sparks of red energy pulsed along their sides. It was as if a swarm of otherworldly creatures was about to devour everything around them. I dressed quickly, grabbed the radio, and called my contact. "Invasion imminent. They are moving." A female voice responded on the other side, eerily calm. "Understood, Santos. Meet the team at the pyramid's north entrance. We don't have much time." On the way to the pyramid, chaos had already spread through the city. Burned cars, civilians running in panic, and strange buzzing sounds echoed from every alley. The US military base wasn't far from there. Soldiers were rushing toward the pyramid, carrying high-tech weapons specifically designed to combat the alien invaders. I knew it wouldn't be a simple mission. "Samuel, are you sure about this?" asked a young soldier with a tense expression. I responded with a nod, trying to hide my own fear. The truth was, there was no choice. We were already in the middle of a war, even before it officially began. When we finally reached the pyramid's secret entrance, the stone door was ajar, revealing a dark corridor that seemed to stretch infinitely downward. A group of armed soldiers moved ahead, while I followed closely behind, holding a blue light flashlight that cut through the darkness. The corridor was filled with a chemical smell, a mix of ozone and dried blood. The electromagnetic buzzing grew stronger with each step. A soldier ahead of me began to tremble and suddenly collapsed, bleeding from his nose and eyes. "Intense electromagnetic field!" I shouted, but it was too late. 2 more soldiers fell, convulsing on the ground. That's when I realized the aliens had been monitoring us from the moment we entered. We pressed deeper until we reached a vast underground chamber. The room was unlike anything I'd ever seen, a blend of advanced technology and ancient symbols carved into the walls, glowing with a greenish hue. At the center was a structure that resembled a throne, but it was clearly alien, surrounded by holographic screens projecting images of Earth. "This is where they control us," I whispered to myself, my voice choked. The screens displayed historical images, from ancient Egypt to modern times. It was evident. The aliens were manipulating humanity, shaping our civilization to their advantage. I looked at the images with a mix of horror and awe, trying to grasp the true extent of what we were up against. As I examined the room, I heard a metallic sound behind me. I turned too quickly, almost falling on the smooth stone floor. There stood a massive alien creature, with flaming red eyes, deep red scaly skin, and an aura of pure terror. The alien was only a few meters away from me, its heavy, menacing breathing echoing through the room. With a sudden move, it lunged forward, emitting a guttural roar as beams of red energy shot from its hands toward me. I rolled to the side, barely avoiding them, while the soldiers opened fire with their blue light weapons, trying to keep the creature at bay. I knew we needed a quick plan, or we would all die there. Catching my breath, I ran to a metallic table in the corner of the room, filled with alien devices I could barely understand. But one of them caught my attention. A silver cylinder with an inscription I could read, Central Control Receiver. It was clear that this device was the aliens' communication hub with their ships, controlling the entire operation. "This is it! We need to destroy this now," I shouted to the soldiers. One of them rushed toward me with a concentrated charge explosive. I placed the device on the ground, set the timer to 30 seconds, and we sprinted out of the chamber, the sound of alien footsteps echoing behind us. The sound of the explosion echoed through the pyramid, followed by a wave of heat that shook the walls. The impact was so strong that we were thrown to the ground, dust rising in a thick, suffocating cloud. But I knew we had succeeded. As the smoke began to clear, I saw that the alien control device was completely destroyed, reduced to twisted metal and burned cables. The soldiers around me slowly got up, some injured but alive. "Did we get them?" I asked one of the men, still gasping for air. He nodded with an exhausted smile. It was the end of a secret war that had lasted for millennia, and everything began to calm down. But I felt that something was still unresolved, an inexplicable sense of emptiness. When we emerged from the pyramid, the sun was rising on the horizon, painting the desert in shades of orange and gold. It was a symbolic dawn, a new era for humanity, now free from alien control. The ships hovering over Cairo began to destabilize and crash, falling like burning meteors, prompting cheers from civilians and soldiers who watched the scene. The military radio was filled with emotional voices, reporting that alien bases worldwide were collapsing in the same way. A feeling of relief washed over me, a sense of duty fulfilled after a dark and uncertain journey. For a moment, I believed this was truly our victory. But as I moved away from the crowd, seeking a moment of silence, something unexpected happened. A figure emerged in front of me, stepping out of the pyramid's shadows. It was the government agent who had recruited me at the start of this mission. His face was calm, showing no signs of fear or surprise. He looked at me with an enigmatic expression. "Did you really think it was over?" he asked with a firm voice, without any tone of relief or celebration. I was confused for a moment. The device was destroyed. They lost control, I replied, trying to understand what he meant. But he only smiled, a dark, enigmatic smile. The device was just a vessel, Samuel. The real base of control is still intact, inside us. The impact of his words hit like a punch to the gut. I felt the ground open beneath my feet, and suddenly everything made sense. The abductions, the experiments, the manipulation over centuries. They weren't just controlling humanity from the outside. They had infiltrated us, our DNA, our minds. The real base was within our biology, a part of us we didn't even understand. You're already part of them, Samuel, he said, looking at me with a cold intensity. All of us are. All you did was activate the next stage. In a moment of desperation, I grabbed my weapon and pointed it at the man, but he didn't react, only laughed quietly. Do you really think you can change this with bullets? He asked, his voice dripping with irony. My fingers trembled on the trigger, but part of me knew he was right. The truth was unbearable. We were more alien than human now, and everything we had fought to destroy was, in fact, empowering us. Welcome to the new era, Samuel, he whispered before vanishing into the pyramid's darkness. I stood there, alone and silent, as the sun continued to rise, casting a harsh light on a world that would never be the same.